2. Continuing work on the paws, I added this additional piece trying to tie it all together. It was just experimental, see what works, what didn't. Some of this would be out of sequence, but then the next thing that I created, were the claws, which were done out of modeling clay, baked in the oven. And they were very simple to do. Just roll it up, give it a little taper, flatten out the end, punch a hole, and that's where it was to be sewn on. But the thing is, the seams go horizontally, and the claws go vertically. So did the flattened piece. The flattened piece should have gone this way and it was sewn in better. The next set will be better. I saw that on the inside you could put a cupping to it, a little cupping, so it'll touch the end of your finger and it'll come out a lot nicer. These are always kind of weird, but these are still my main gloves, paws, as it is. These, however, I had just made, and they're a lot easier to work with until I started adding things. The other final thing that was done to them was trying to find all sorts of material that I already have. I do a lot of scrounging, and this is the body stuff cut into the pattern, and it seems to work to give it a kind of a paw pad impression until eventually I get the money for this stuff, because I don't think I can mold anything good enough. It's too complicated with all that molding materials and so forth, but still possible. So that pretty much had finished the suit, and fursuited 2 or 3 times. That was not finished. Before the first time I officially fursuited, I redid the foot paws. The other ones, the black ones, were terrible, small, and so forth. And this is a continuing learning process of what's good, what's a great design. So I then started work on these guys, but the slip-on shoe that's inside them was taken from the old ones. All that old stuff was torn off, cleaned up a bit, and then started carving furniture foam to approximately that shape, trying to give it the curved fingers and so forth like that, and then gluing that to the shoes, and then started furring that, similar to before, but the previous ones had used glue to try to keep the fur onto the body. Didn't work. Spray glue, spray adhesive. These are loose, more or less, except for some on the edges, hot glue. Lots of hot glue. I always use that stuff. Doesn't always work, but it's a good idea. Oh, broke a rule there. Don't stick your finger up your chin. Here you are. And then the usual stuff with the foot paws. Oh, on the soles, to protect them from damage, I had some old vinyl sign material, and it's just thin vinyl, and cut it out to the pattern of the sole and put that on. But it's white. I want black. Black always looks better, dark grays and so forth. But still, it's doing its job. It's not all that rugged, so oftentimes you have the flexibility to have paw pads and cloth and so forth on the bottom. You create what are sandals. So I made these guys, more or less per matrices.net's instructions, with my own way of doing it, and they're gardening knee pads with dog collars, straps. Not too difficult. So then with the new foot paws, I was ready to go to the 3 fursuit outings, which were an absolute blast. It was the most fun I've ever had, and apparently I don't get out much. And still using those paws, and they're still really nice, and so I like using them, but they flop around and slip over and they just dangle, and it just doesn't seem right, and it's just the way I am. So then, very recently, when I was kind of slightly idle but want to do something, I did these guys. I took a pattern off of the internet because the other ways of drawing with a pencil and like that, I wasn't sure how it would come out, and did some work with it, but to get it out on the printer on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper is a difficult trick. It's involving scaling, so scale it up and down. The first glove I made too small, and the second one I made was one of these two guys, and it was a little bit loose, but made a little adjustment, and then I saw that oftentimes on the characters there were white fingers as well as toes. Wish I had done that when I did these guys, but that's okay, they look great. So I've started these guys and sewn half with white and the rest as normal. Pretty straightforward. The next thing would be the claws. I'm definitely doing those, but I'm going to do it right this time. But the paw pads, this is decorative in a way, and I think it works just fine as it is. I don't have to do paw pads, but eventually I will. But this keeps going on, improvement after improvement after improvement. And I skipped a step there. So this fur on the head was just not working out. It looked like a bear, so I started modifying it. Also reshaping the head itself was still just not the right size. I kept paring it down and adjusting and redoing it, and it's strips of foam stacked on one on top of the other, creating a dome shape. And so it allows for slice and glue together, slice and glue together to adjust. So I kept doing that. Had a bit of an accident with the muzzle. Is when I finally started gluing it back on, the bridge of the head was supposed to be vertical. This has been fixed, by the way. And so it came out a little crooked. So I put in a piece here, straightened out, right? It came out crooked again. Put a piece there, kept going. Added about that much to it. So that's why it looks like Drooper from the Banana Splits. Look it up. Come on, kids, just look it up. It's an old show. Shush. Yes, I'm old. So I was looking for ideas, and generally it's just simply a contrast of color and longer fur too. And so that's what is dark brown. I went, got it off. Okay, this is stuff I already had that I'd gotten when I got the Davos body, and cut out the collar first for the shape that I wanted, and then started with gluing on the edges, but stitching all the way down and then connecting it to the collar to produce a result. Now, during that time, I kept trying to do a moving mouth, as at one time I discovered quite by accident that when gluing the lower jaw back up into the muzzle, they would sit there and flop like this. And I thought I'd try some mechanisms to make it connect my jaw to it. They didn't work very well because I kept thinking vertical or horizontal, until I saw Dervacor's wireframe head that he's doing. It never occurred to me to do diagonal, but it's splitting out. It'll stay in place perfectly, holds the chin strap in place, and then the lower jaw can be glued onto it. But in the meantime, this is done with an open mouth for sight and breathing, as well as the important thing is the chin is open for a lot of airflow between the eyes and down the chin, and for access and so forth. Always pushing my glasses back. I try not to do that. And there was a difficulty with the neck. Originally I had a piece of fur going across like that, but it turns out that when my glasses were fogging up, there was low airflow. The eyes I had back then didn't allow much of airflow, and this overheated the chest because it was a big heavy piece of fur that was on the neck and everything, so everything was kind of closed up and low airflow. So I've changed that. This is that cloth that originally I got for the eyes, but it turned out that it was terrible for the eyes. It had microfibers going across it, so it was very difficult to see through. And the old eyes didn't look right. They were half arcs. I finally saw a design for the eyes, so I redid the old eyes in the new way, and you got the result here. And instead of that cloth that I'm using here, I just used screen door mesh, window mesh, simple stuff, and colored it, glued it behind the main part of the eye, which is plastic from a certain someone's kitty litter. They're sitting there wanting their dinner. Oh, poor babies. So glued the mesh to it, colored, put on some eyebrows and tied in, put it in place of the old eyes, filled it in and all that and refurred, so now everything's pretty much what you see. The whiskers are fishing reel string and just stuck in there with a drop of glue on the end. The nose is the other modeling clay thing I did, is I molded the nose and glued that on so I can give it a start of a real feline look to it. And pretty much left it there, except for one final touch that I like. First, it was just a white beard, the top part here, not this down here. And so it was just a little bit of fur. But seeing Kimba, the white lion, after all these decades, reminded how much I loved it. They have a tuft of hair on their chin that comes down, especially Caesar, the father, which I feel I more relate to. So I created this, eventually trying some designs, and this is just two pieces of fur sewn together, glued together with a slightly rounded triangle piece of cake, glued up on the top, bam, all set. That's the Grand Tour. Yeah, it would have taken a Jeep to take the Grand Tour because it was a long drive around the world. Yes, no fat jokes tonight. Meantime, I got to feed some starving kitties. Oh, the kitties are starving. Me, I'm fine. I'm not hungry, so this kitty's okay. So, progress. So, more to come down the road when I get it done.